Well, good evening, everybody. I hope you are well, and thank you for joining me once again for another edition of Andy the Gabby Cabby in the Garage. Good to see you all. Hope you've had a good week. Now, before I get on to the hellos and quick roll call and we get on, I just want to reiterate something I said earlier on in the week about I've not been around so much the last few days. I think I knocked out a couple of videos on Friday, if I got my days right. But kind of Wednesday and Thursday I wasn't about. I don't know if anybody caught, but without going into too much detail, we have a thank you factual breakdown. I appreciate that. Without going into too much detail, because she wouldn't appreciate it if I did, we have a relative of ours that's currently in the hospital, very, very, very poorly. And I said, that's the reason I've not been about, because obviously family comes first above everything else. And I asked for prayers for you all to just pray. And I was very humbled to read the amount of comments from people that did just that. Said, prayers to Andy, prayers to the family and everything else. So I very much appreciate all the kind words and concern. And if I can just reiterate the same in this live, just keep us in your prayers and do a little bit of this and everything else as well. And as they say, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. That's pretty much the mode my family's in at the moment. And I'll keep you posted with more as and when I can, and if I find it appropriate. Anyway, let's have a look who we got in the house. Blue Angel, Chris Card, Minge Pump, Blue Angel, Blood Nose, working the moderation in the background and the comments as always. Thank you. Gary Thornbury. Johnny, good to see you. I saw your email that you fired over to me right beforehand. Appreciate that. Margaret Yates, yes. Hi everyone. Missed last week, so I got here early. I think you actually beat me, Margaret. Lord Jim Dandy. Lord Jim Dandy. I did see your message on Facebook, kind of the preview of it. But I don't kind of tend to go in Facebook, but I appreciated the comments that you sent me, and absolutely spot on. And I've already starred one of your things to bring up a bit later, so I appreciate the words. Factual Breakdown, another moderator and long-term supporter of the channel. Appreciate you. Julie Keys, good to see you in the house. Cosmic War Toad. Philip Matthews, good to see you. Ever Dreaming Tim, and we got all these regulars. It really is good. Really is good. I see Factual Breakdowns mentioned something about taxiing, and I want to talk about that a bit later. Actually, you just remind me of something. Scrooge Slimer's in the house. Andy, hello, good to see you. I hope you're well. And I think we got more. Clive, Martin, Kathy, Converse Mackham. Good evening, sir. WTF, Anne-Marie, Andrew, that's my namesake. John, hello, good to see you. Ian, Chris, Classics and Sports Cars Rod Channel, band again, Butts Unplugged. A couple are turning up that I've not seen for a while. It's great. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Hello, Ron. Band again, Matt Wootton and Mark Clay, Diane. Yes, I think that's pretty much everybody. So I appreciate that. Well, before I go any further, you know what I'm like with regard to the system we have in this country that governs us. And I was very disturbed to read that Tommy Robinson has come out and endorsed UKIP, whereas before he endorsed Reform. And I think I know why he's done this, and I can't say I blame him. But the problem we have in this country, we've got so many people that are programmed up here to go and vote for Conservative or Labour. And if Labour balls it up, they'll just go and vote the other one, and then we're stuck in the same quagmire we always are. And I think something critical has to happen here. I think our side of the spectrum has to club together. Otherwise, we're in a whole lot of trouble. I mean, I remember when UKIP was more of a presence than they are now, and I remember when Nigel Farage came around here, my area, because he was trying to contest what was at the time the South Thanet seat, and they actually won the council here, and they didn't get the seat. Nigel Farage didn't win the seat because I think they threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at trying to keep him out of the way. But then everything went wrong very quickly, especially when Farage left, and UKIP went from potentially, good possibilities of being something to what really feels like an outside fringe group. I may be doing them a disjustice, but they don't have the clout that maybe they once did. And now for somebody like Tommy Robinson carrying the number of people, the number of supporters behind him that look up to him and believe in him, to turn around and say, I'm not going to endorse reform anymore, I'm going to endorse UKIP, then all of his followers are going to think, there's a bit of a problem here. And they're going to flock in the other direction. So someone that's well poised to do a bit of damage to the system, I will admit it's a system I don't believe in, could be very damaged. And it's because of what's being said in the media by the politicians involved, the newscasters, and everything else. And I hope it sorts itself out. The right must unite. Otherwise, it's not going to amount to shit, and we're going to get stuck in the same storm we always have. I mean, I've got some examples I want to show you. Banned again. I mean, that is great. Reform hit 99,000 members this week. I mean, that is brilliant. And if they get the infrastructure in place, then, it's got potential. But the problem is, a lot of the people that sit down and wait and watch and hear what's going on, they're going to think others if they see, figureheads they believe in behaving in certain ways. And you've got other people that don't come out at all, and they need convincing. They need to come out and make the difference. Right. I got sent a news piece by Johnny. Thank you very much for that. And I haven't had a chance to load it into the system, so I'll just tell you about it. In the last week, 1,500 migrants come across that channel on boats. 1,500. Now, if you look at Karen Kay, my first live. Good evening, Andy. Good evening to you, Karen. Appreciate you coming along and welcome. Now, if you look at 1,500 in the last week, and if you look at the picture of one of those boats, the overhead picture of the boats that I've showed you, you can fit a good 60 people in one of those. Divide 1,500 by 60, and how many boats have come over this week alone? Surely, by any stretch of the imagination, it's unsustainable. And we were told by this incoming administration that now the government we're stuck with, they were going to do something about it. Yet here we are, 1,500 more that week. Now, I want to show you something that's going on in the EU. This news article here. There's a lot of people saying that Tommy's flying back now, and there was a thing he did saying that it could be his last video because he expects to be detained when he gets here. That'll be interesting to see. Philip Matthews, Andy, why do you not even consider the system is the problem and ignore the possibility completely? Right, the thing is, I actually agree with you 100%. The system is the problem. Now, you can't just turn around and make a change immediately. Can't say, right, this is the reality now. This is the reality here. Like it or lump it. You just can't do it because people will just go nuts. I know what you're referring to. You and I both know what we're referring to. You go back 300 or 400 years, the way things should be now. At some point, everything got hijacked, and we've ended up with British this, British that, and British the other, and a system that's just should just be completely disregarded. I'm with you 100%, but people need convincing of that. They need educating of that, and you can't just go there boom, straight away. You've got to lead them to it, lead them to the truth, and that's all I try to do. I've probably let too much out the bag there, but I completely agree with what you're saying there, Philip. Anyway, back to it. This is what's going on in the EU right now. Another organisation I have massive problems with. Let's have a look at this. EU backs calls to ban asylum seekers in major European cities and speed up deportation. Warsaw wants to temporarily suspend the right to asylum amid fears Russia and Belarus want to push migrants across EU borders to whip up chaos. The EU has backed Poland's move to curb migration after Warsaw said it wanted to temporarily suspend the right to asylum. I see somebody mentioned in the comments that their borders have been thrown open. It comes amid fears Russia and Belarus want to push migrants across EU borders to foment chaos in the bloc. EU leaders this week lauded a groundswell of support for tightening their borders and making the bloc a more hostile destination for migrants and asylum seekers after a recent surge in support for the far right, which has whipped up opposition to outsiders. At the end of a summit dominated by migration, EU leaders pushed plans to speed up ways of getting migrants not eligible to stay in the EU out and process asylum applications outside their borders, seeking to buttress a reputation as Fortress Europe. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said things are changing in the EU. Now the majority of leaders are saying the same, that we cannot continue. The numbers are too high. We have to return those who should not be protected in Europe. And, it goes on. Now, that's the EU saying that. That's the EU saying that. And you have a look at the numbers that are coming here. You look at the hotels that are taken up. You look at the talk of residential housing that could be taken up. You look at the strain on our public services. All of us that live here anyway are living longer. And then we have an influx of more population. We have other issues as well, which are brought up by this problem. The EU, by the sounds of it, are starting to see it. The rest of us are not. So what is going on in this country of ours? Now, I've just seen a name I've not seen for a long time. Wow, Duty Ron. Duty Ron, for anyone that doesn't know, hello, my friend. It's good to see you in here. Is a retired MIPD police officer, first responder of 9/11, has his own YouTube channel. Go and check him out. He does some great shows with him and his partner, and they go through all true crime stuff, the same as Bill Cannon of Police Off the Cuff. Real crime stories as well. Great guys. I did a live with one of them a long time ago. It's actually Bill Cannon, and I'm always watching their stuff. So good to see Ron in the house. So go and subscribe if you haven't done so. Yeah, so there you go. Plug for Judy Ron. Yeah. So why are we not sorting this out ourselves? When you look at, and Duty Ron's present reminds me that they have exactly the same issue in America as well, with their southern border. Migrants piling over it at massive amounts. So why isn't anyone doing anything about this? Is it by design? Is it incompetence? What else is going on? It's beyond reproach. It really is. Now, at this stage, I just want to knock off a couple of comments that some people have gone through, and then we'll have a look at the next things. Now, this I saw earlier. Bloodnose says, welcome to the Sunday Live. Please press the like and check out this video by Andy 2 years ago about Starmer and Rayner. I don't know if you can stick a direct link to that in the chat, Blood, because I'd be interested to see what that actually is. I don't know whether I predicted something a couple of years ago and it's come true or what, but I'll have to go and have a look. So go check that one out, folks. Okay, we've got Margaret. Me too, Blue Angel. I missed it last week. Did the catch up, and it's much better live and being able to join in. Yes, Margaret. I mean, the great thing with all of these live streams, if you miss them, there is the ability to replay them, but you don't have that interaction, do you, with everybody? That's the thing. Lord Jim Dandy. My budgie broke his leg. I used a Swan Vesta as a splint for getting the sandpaper at the cage floor. Oops. Yeah, a bit. I bet that was a bit spark. What was it called? Sparky or something? I don't know. Yeah, a joke from me. Thanks for that, Lord Jim Dandy. A couple more, and then we'll go back to the news. Cosmic Wartoad. I reckon that if a taxi driver arrives half an hour later, it's half price. If it turns up 15 minutes late, it's minimum charge. But if it's over 40 minutes, it's free. I've got something to talk about with taxi driving. We'll come to that very shortly. There's a couple of you mentioning stuff about taxis in there, actually. So, yes, it's a worthy discussion. Now, going back to the government. Going back to the government a second. Oh, we have something. Where are we? We have something. Let's get this in if my computer behaves itself. Yeah, there we go. Andy, congratulations on 100,000. We have an election coming soon. Hopefully, the southern border gets addressed. I hope so too, Judy Ron. You know, as with over here, it's getting completely out of hand. I mean, I was down Dover, where we have the problem the other day, and they've shoved it all out the way. So you can't see anything that's going on. But we have Dover, and we also have a place called Manston, not very far from me. You can look them up on Google Maps, and it's a former RAF base, and they've turned part of it into a migrant processing centre. And they've just put out tenders for contracts for these two places for another 6 years, with the possibility of extending them to 10. So something's in there somewhere, but I hope it all gets sorted, definitely. And thank you very much for the $20 super chat. Very much appreciated. Now, talking of money, repatriations, or reparations, or whatever you call it, where you have to give a load of money for stuff that's happened in a dim and distant past that no one's alive anymore to talk about. Now, let's have a look at this one here. I mean, this came up in the news the other day where I think David Lammy was mentioned in it as well. So, UK faces an eye-watering 6.2 trillion reparation demand at awkward Commonwealth summit. 6.2 trillion. Now, if you look at the supposed national debt and you look at, the supposed £22 billion black hole that Rachel Reeves is saying, what the hell is going on? This could ruin the country. Now, where are we? The UK is facing calls from Commonwealth members to cough up billions for its role in the climate crisis. Hang on a minute. Out of all the countries in the world, we are the ones that aren't chucking out as much gunk as other countries like China and India. So what role have we in the climate crisis, which honestly is going to mean that we've got to repay all this money? I remember during lockdown when everything stopped, I was looking at overhead maps of different countries in the world to see what was going on. And if you looked at places like India, you had a before and after map. Before, there was smog and crap everywhere. And then you could see during lockdown when everything shut down and Mother Nature took its course and everything could heal, it was just a completely different place. It was unbelievable, actually. Unbelievable. So, what we're getting punished for this for, I do not know. The UK delegation, led by Keir Starmer, faces an awkward Commonwealth summit next week amid demands for reparations from member countries. King Charles will also be at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting following his trip to Australia. British representatives face a strained meeting with several governments demanding billions from the UK as reparations to poorer countries for causing climate change as well as slavery. So they're trying to blame us for something that percentage-wise we're not really totally and utterly responsible for. In fact, very minimal if you compare it with everybody else. And we're one of the countries that did everything we could to abolish the slave trade. So why are we being asked to pay for something we had a hand in abolishing all of these many, many years ago? But what worries me is the kind of governance that we have in place at the moment. Is this going to cost this country even more money? And with a budget we've got coming up at the end of the month, God help us all. You don't know what to say anymore to this crap, really. You don't, do you? Now, this goes on. Philip Davis, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, told The Observer that his country needed help from the UK to pay for damage caused by extreme weather events. He said the Commonwealth is the ideal forum for making progress on reparations. Our very name echoes the principles and values of the necessary stewardship of the wealth we hold in common, our shared planet. Now, there's a quote that I've said before about this, and I'll come to it in a minute. He continues, bringing together some of the richest nations on the world with some of the most vulnerable gives us the urgent responsibility to finding a solution to the global shocks that threaten the loss of lives and livelihoods for island states, which makes up nearly half the membership of the Commonwealth. It's a threat which is truly existential. If we cannot find ways to make our countries more resilient, we will not survive. Now, it appears to me that there's certain areas or certain countries making a beeline for the pocketbook of other countries. And are we the soft touch? Are we going to give in to all of this? Members of the Commonwealth and everything else? Who knows? But there's a very important quote. I mean, let's ask in the chat, who remembers David Bellamy? And I'm sure you all do. Give me a 1 in the chat if you remember David Bellamy. I'm looking for those ones. Yes, here we go. And by the way, hi, Mum. I've just seen you in there. 11111. Yes. Well, David Bellamy coming out of a comment, and it effectively cancelled him. I was going to say the K word, but I won't. Unalived him. It cancelled him. And it was that the Earth has natural cycles. And it gets hot, then it gets cold again. It gets hot, then it'll get cold again. And it goes round like that, and it has done for thousands and thousands of years. So is this a cycle, or is this something to worry about? But, you know, they're jumping on this bandwagon straight away. Right, let's have another couple of comments, and then I want to tell you about what's going on with the taxiing. And speaking of which, factual breakdown. We have crazy taxi service here in the States, Uber and Lyft. Gone are the days of hailing a cab in New York City or phoning one up elsewhere. Everything is an app. Talking to Bill Cannon, I remember we were talking about what you did in an emergency in a cab here, if there was a problem. I remember he told me in the back of the New York yellow cabs there was a little light, and if the driver had trouble on board, pushed a button, the light would flash, and the cops pull the cab over, see what's going on. But yeah, you see that stereotypical thing with New York, don't you? And I really hope to make it over there one day, where you go, taxi, and, you know, it's Uber all over the place. What we've got here at the moment, I live in a district called Thanet, which is in the southeast. And we have several taxi companies around, me being one of them. And I just do airport transfers. That's all I do. The others, we have what they refer to themselves as the big three, the biggest three taxi operators in the area that do all of the local stuff. They've been here doing that for the better part of 40 years. Two out of the three I worked for before I started my own business. And when you operate a taxi business in this area, and I'm sure it's the same in others, you need an operator's license to operate a taxi business. Now, what's happened, Uber have been granted an operator's license by our local council to come down here and operate within the Thanet area. Now, all of the local taxi operators have gone absolutely mad. They can't do it. It will affect local trade. We'll lose drivers. The drivers will get stiffed and all the rest of it, all the usual arguments. Now, I'm not overly worried because I look at their prices compared with mine, and there's no comparison. So they're not going to have an effect on my work. I know that because at the end of the day, people go, where's affordable? But be interesting to see what happens here. They tried coming into an area about 20 miles up the road from me. Didn't work out, and they pulled away. But there's certainly a lot of opposition to it within the taxi businesses. And I got some minutes of a meeting that I didn't attend. Somebody sent them to me later, but we'll have to see how that figures out. They will put you in a 15-minute city because they print the money that bribes the criminals, that makes the rules all the conformists follow. Yeah, Philip. I mean, if you look at all the difficulties we're seeing at the moment. There's roadworks flying up everywhere. There's talk about pay per mile. There's talk about fuel possibly going up, and there's talk about all of this stuff that makes it difficult for people to move around and do normal things, confining them into these little areas. So I've not gone down that road for a long time. I've not spoken about it for a long time, and it doesn't mean that it's not there. Always Pooh. Hey Andy, how's La Hope? La Hope? I know Bob Hope and No Hope. What do you mean La Hope? I might be half asleep there, but please clarify. One more. Scrooge Slime, my 2 seeds says just one single day without uploading a video impacts the algorithm for his channel. Don't YouTube know content creators have a world outside of social media? It depends on the subject and what you talk about as to what effect it does have. Now, the job of the YouTube algorithm, people misconstrued this an awful lot. Now, the basic job of the YouTube algorithm is to service videos in front of people that they want to watch. If you look up cricket, the YouTube algorithm will serve you up cricket videos. If you want to watch Nigel Farage videos, the YouTube algorithm will serve you up Nigel Farage. That's all the YouTube algorithm is. It just serves you videos that it thinks or knows that you want to watch. That is literally its only job. And you do need a certain amount of what Kunga Zopa's just said. Hit the like button, please, everyone, to actually poke your head above the parapet, say to the YouTube algorithm, I'm here, and regular uploads. But, a day or two. Anyone that is a YouTube creator watching at the moment, or anybody that's interested, if you ever have to have a day or two out like I just have, the best thing to do is go on something like Twitter or go on something like Google Trending News or something like that and look at all the trending news articles for the day and what are getting the most hits and make a video on it. And then all of a sudden, you've hit the reset button on your numbers. It's, once you get the hang of it and once you know how to work that system, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I reckon that if a taxi, thanks Cosmic Water, arrives half an hour. We've had that comment. Why has that come up again? Let's get rid of that one. Right, here's another one. Has anyone seen the Tommy Robinson stuff today? Apparently, he thinks he's getting arrested tonight. That's what he thinks anyway. We're about to find out because he's about to land. If somebody could keep an eye on that for me, I would appreciate it. Tommy did a video this morning where he basically said he was coming home and he does expect it to be nicked. I mean, you look what happened that time he came home and he was sitting in a cafe having breakfast with his family. That's exactly what happened. So there you go. Right, let's dip back into the politics for a second. Now, Rachel Reeves and the budget was mentioned earlier, and there's a little article here to do with Wes Streeting, and I mentioned him because I did a video on him the other day with this thing where he wants to get unemployed people out and give them the old in the arm to try and get them back to work, which obviously isn't going to work. So let's have a look what's going on here. So, Rachel Reeves will have my kneecaps. Wes Streeting was pressed for details on the autumn budget. He probably knows all about it. Labour Health Secretary Wes Streeting has refused to divulge details about the upcoming autumn budget, telling GB News he values his kneecaps. In an interview on the Camilla Tominey show, hosted by Christopher Hope, Streeting admitted he was unaware of Chancellor Rachel Reeves' decisions on tax matters, as she keeps such information closely guarded until near the budget. Well, reading between the lines, he knows, and he's not going to spill. Streeting said, I generally don't know what decisions the Chancellor has made or is making about tax because she doesn't share till closer. Well, we're getting quite close, Wes. We're getting quite close. I'm not going to speculate because I value my kneecaps, and the Chancellor won't tolerate me going around speculating about her budget. Well, most of the country has, and a lot of stuff has been leaked already. We were very clear in our manifesto, no increases in income tax. We'll see. National insurance. Have you seen the argument going on about that at the moment? VAT on working people. That's debatable. And we will keep those promises. Well, you've broken one of them already and possibly will break the other two. Discussing Labour's cautious approach to campaign pledges, we were deliberately cautious because we knew that the public finances were in a state. The public finances were in a state. Now, let's talk about that one, shall we? I love this comment. Now, they're talking about a £22 billion black hole left by the Conservatives. Politicians rely on us having a short memory, which of course we don't. We remember it all. Now, if you look before the previous government, before the coalition, we had a Labour government who left a note in the drawer saying there's no damn money left in the till. So where does this black hole come from? Of course, it's bullshit. We know it's bullshit. It smells like bullshit. It looks like it. So it probably is. There you go. Right. Let's carry on. Okay. So Streeting assured voters that Labour would honour their manifesto commitments. We wanted to make sure that the promises we made were promises we could keep. We haven't kept any so far. And despite the challenges we walked into, I can tell you that we will honour every single one of those manifesto commitments. I'll remember what Wes Streeting says because it will come back and bite him on the arse in a week or so. Despite his reluctance to speculate on budget details, Streeting gave a strong indication that income tax thresholds might be frozen. So he does know what she's planning then. This potential freeze could extend the current freeze until 2030, 2 years beyond the previous government's plan. Such a move would result in more people being pushed into higher tax brackets as their wages increase with inflation. Streeting acknowledged the difficult decision ahead, stating the Chancellor and the whole government are going to have to make difficult and big choices in this budget to stabilise and fix the foundations of our country so we can build a better future. Oh yes, build back better. We've heard that before, haven't we? However, the Health Secretary did not rule out potential changes to employer national insurance contributions. When questioned about this, he said, I don't know if that's going to be in the budget, but we did not rule out that or a number of other things. He told Sky News, we can't fix 14 years in one budget. So there's a process of priorities, choices and trade-offs. So he's gone from not knowing anything about what's going on in the budget up the top to being quite the authority on it a little bit further down the article. They kind of lose their way, don't they? Bless them. And they say we can't fix the last 14 years. What about the damage your party did previous to that? You're all in it. You're all in your neck up to it. And to echo the comment I read out earlier, why are we worrying about a system which really doesn't work? Well, one of the things, bring back, the last person to enter the House of Parliament with honourable intentions is the old joke, isn't it? Now, what everybody's hope seems to be, what everybody's shining light seems to be, is reform. What are reform going to do? Can they fix this? Now, people need to be voted in. I have my own beliefs. I have my own feelings of what I want to see happen. Now, I'm big enough and ugly enough, careful with the comments there, that that's not going to happen anytime very soon, but it could happen if people are shoved in that direction. Now, what the big shining light at the moment is reform. Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Lee Anderson, and, everything that comes with it. People need to get in seats. People need to be elected in seats. My good friend Noel Wilcox did very, very well in his seat, although not enough to get in. Now, why is that? We saw this pattern all over the country. Voter apathy. Oh, sod it. It's not worth coming out to vote, so I won't bother. The system we have, first past the post. People are too trained to vote for one or the other. The mainstream media, because they teach and train people to vote for one or the other. The list is endless. So we need people in. Now, this article caught my eye here. It's the last one, and then we'll start going through some comments, see what people have got to say. You can see Farage and Sunak here. Now, soon enough, Sunak's going to be gone because he's not going to be leader of the Conservatives anymore. And that's another story. He's rumoured to be lining up a high-profile candidate to contest Rishi Sunak's seat. And it's going to be late. Nigel Farage has his sights on the seat if the former Prime Minister decides to step down next month. Nigel is set to be lining up a high-profile candidate to replace Sunak in Richmond and Northallerton, a seat he held with a 12,185 majority at the general election in July. I wonder what the majority was beforehand. Before this election, if anyone can let me know. Both Sunak and his former Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden, are tipped to leave the Commons in November, with sources telling the Mail on Sunday that Farage has received intelligence regarding the Conservative MP's future. Sources close to Sunak said he'd be surprised if the former PM resigned. And during the election, he vowed to serve a full term as an MP if he lost. However, this hasn't stopped speculation about his future. The same sources said that in the event that Sunak quits, he's built up a lot of goodwill in the Tory party by staying in the post whilst the leadership race drags on. Rumoured to be eyeing up the seat is Penny Mordaunt, who lost her Portsmouth North seat in July. I'll reserve comment on her. However, a Reform UK source said that Farage has two former Tory MPs and one current Tory MP ready to defect and stand in by-elections. A win for Farage's party in a potential by-election would bolster Reform UK even further, who are currently neck and neck with the Tories, according to recent polls. A recent survey from JL Partners showed that voters currently have a more positive view of Reform UK than they do Labour. Farage has vowed to become the ruling party's largest opposition. Now, they talk at the end of that article about what's going on with the Conservatives, and to be honest, I don't give a damn. They're a busted flush, and we need to polish off the other lot as well. Now, people need to come out and vote. I get concerned when they talk about defections, because you're just moving old crap to a new house. And I don't think that's the way to go. But who am I? I'm just a taxi driver sitting in his garage talking. I really don't like that idea. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. I'll obviously let you know as it does. Now, let's have a look at these comments and see what people have got to say. UKIP has non-stop been fighting each other. Paid opposition, that's banned again. This is the problem, isn't it? When egos get in the way, other backroom dealings that nobody knows about gets in the way. What I mean by backroom dealings is conversations that people have with each other. The media get hold of it and just tear it all to pieces, and you end up destroying yourself from the inside out. Cosmic War Toad, hey, you lot, the NHS supposed to be going to give free smartwatches out. Are they really? When you have a relative laying very ill in a hospital bed, as I have right now, I'd like to know what possible use a smartwatch could be for them when they can't track the steps or anything like that. And you know how much smartwatches cost, don't you? Multiply that by... Yeah, okay. It's the kind of thing you'd expect as a gift if you went on the private. Chris Card, they turn on Farage to help hide he's one of them. They destroyed UKIP after the referendum. It was annihilated. And what I found as well with our local council, I went to one of the meetings, one of the hustings meetings, where they let us know what they were going to do. And I'm sorry, but when you stand in front of me and tell me that when you get elected to public office, you're going to do ABC, I don't want DEF, I want ABC, and you should be held to account if you don't deliver. Our local council was a disaster for a short amount of time. I could comment further on it now, but I won't for the benefit of this live. Tamsin, Nigel should not talk Tommy down. I'd rather he said nothing. Together they could be really effective. What concerns me, Tamsin, is the effect all of this has on the followers that can convert into votes, which could really change things. Daft as a brush. Andy, car insurance is just silly now. I'm not saying we're perfect, but I'm in a so-called sanctuary city, and the driving ability of our visitors is just scary. Could this be part of the reason? Daft as a brush, you use the term sanctuary city. I've only heard that in the States. Is that where you're from? I mean, New York is a sanctuary city, for example. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I have to have a certain kind of taxi insurance because of what I do. And when I got my renewal quote through, my insurance doubled. I said, hang on a minute. How long have I been doing this for? And look at the size of my premium. Wow. Yeah. I'm angry that my union is piling on this counter protest next weekend. Marco Bricks UK. Yeah, I saw a statement that Jeremy Corbyn put out, and already anyone that's going to that thing on the 26th has been labelled far right, a thug, and everything else. And I intend to address that either tomorrow or the day after in a video. Again, this is the way in which people are portrayed that just come out who give a monkeys about their country. Philip, your answer is fine with the system. The system enslaves children with a debt they can never pay off. Your stance allows the enslavement of children. You're happy with a crime against humanity. Now, hang on a minute. I am not happy with anything that you've just said at all. Things do need to change. They need to change very drastically. But in my view, it has to be done in a way. You know, I've got kids. You've probably got kids. Most of the people in this chat have got kids. Now, I think differently to certain other people. I like to play the long game. You know, you don't get from here to here by barracking and saying, do it now. You know, you have to take little baby steps, stay below the radar, make it happen. And eventually you get to where you are going. Climate change is a hope. Do you think Starmer will get UK back in here? Yes, I do. To be blunt, I don't think we ever really left. I think they were absolutely shell-shocked by the result of that. And I don't think we ever really left. You look at all the problems and roadblocks that have been put in the way, and some literal roadblocks, I can tell you. But I do believe by the back door, that will happen. Only a matter of time. Yeah, a baby. Britain gets the blame. You know, we get all these boats, and every now and again, a child comes up in the news. A child, for crying out loud, and yet we get 1,500 last week. Slowly, slowly catch a monkey. You got it, Mum. That's a family favourite saying. Are you going to the October March? I'm thinking about it, Russ. I really am thinking about it. Any news on the play button plaque, Andy? Yes and no. I've got this thing, which somebody sent me when I got 50,000 subscribers. Very much appreciated it. It was the person who arranged this was in the chat earlier. I saw them and probably know. Now, any YouTuber that gets to 100,000 subscribers, you get the YouTube silver play button. And what you have to do is go on and apply for it. They either send you an email, or if you know the site, which I do, you can go on and apply for it. And what they do at the end, they give you a redemption code, which you then plug into another site, and then you say what you want on the play button and everything else. And what's happened, it says on the page, I'll have to show you the screen dump another time, but it says you're entitled to the silver play button. And then underneath it says, hang on a minute, we can't quite work something out. Get in touch with us. I did that, and what they said was that they've got such a big backlog of creators hitting 100,000 subscribers all at once. It's taking them time to work through every one. So I've got to wait. I've chased them 3 times now, ever since I hit 100,000 subscribers, and it feels like ages ago I did. Your guess is as good as mine. I know it'll turn up eventually. I know it'll turn up. It's annoying because I want to get my hands on it, but I know it'll come sooner or later. Lord Jim Dandy, we want reparations from the Romans. Yeah, exactly. I appreciate the sentiment there. I really do. Rich Dean, will David Lammy demand reparations from the Africans that captured and sold the slaves to us? Not going to happen, is it? And there were white slaves as well. Yeah, it's not only what they're talking about in the news. Virtual signalling media cobblers. WTF, can we claim from Germany for bombing our chippies? That's an idea. Again, these comments, it just displays how ridiculous it's all getting. Last weekend, we reached 95% of available power. I read that, and, that was to do with the turbines not turning and everything else, wasn't it? And if we become totally reliant on that stuff, we're in a world of trouble. And I think they had to initiate some kind of emergency plan, didn't they, to make sure it didn't end up going into darkness. Ian, if it was not for the UK, the world would be so many years behind in technology. Yeah, I mean, look at how far we spread in our time, and everything that we put around the place. And we seem to want to punish ourselves for our history, and being demonized. It's really horrible, really horrible. And our kids are brought up to believe it. That's what I can't believe either. Russell Faraday, slavery, working all hours for minimal food and lodgings. Feels oddly familiar. Modern day life feels like it, doesn't it? I used to work for Dreamland in my early 20s. I don't know if anybody heard of that. It's in Margate, and this is before minimum wage. I think we can get to 300 thumbs up today. Great stuff. Well, we got 374 watching, so give me a thumbs up if you haven't done so already. Appreciate that. Thanks, Factual Breakdown. Now, yeah, Dreamland, before minimum wage was created, I had a job there, and I think I was paid something like £2.30 an hour. £2.30 an hour. And this was 25 years ago. And you had to do like a 60-hour week just to earn a little bit crust in your pocket. Tony, because we helped out, it's all our fault. Don't forget, this country is the land of milk and honey, unless you're born here. You may have a point. You may have a point. And, I sometimes wonder, are they doing all this to try and piss us all off? Well, it's working. Lord Jim Dandy, not many red weather mats this year. No, absolutely not. Philip, question. Andy, if we did not have a debt we can never pay off, would everyone's life be better? You're damn right it would. You're damn right it would. I mean, there's more stuff coming out about this now, isn't there? I mean, if you look at all of our credit cards and all of our loans and all of our mortgages, and if you look into the mechanisms by which the banks and the building societies and the whole financial sector move all this stuff around, we're all being had, and no one's got the confidence to fully go down that road. I hope that changes. And then if you get into trouble paying a debt and then it gets moved on to a debt collector, you don't owe them anything. And people get frightened into paying stuff they don't have to. It's horrible. And if you look at the national debt, this so-called 2 trillion or whatever it is, I saw a wonderful video about something called the Bradbury Pound over on Richard Vobes' channel. And I suggest you go and have a look at that. There's all mechanisms and things that are there that we can use. They don't want you knowing about because it would ruin their shit show overnight, even quicker than that. Danny, remember ozone layer? Nope, forgot about. Yeah, the big hole over Australia. I remember that. Well, I read something and it was better news. James, some might say you're a Tommy Tard Zionist. Will you be doing a stream proclaiming your nut? I don't need to proclaim anything, James, to be quite honest with you. It's an opinion. Everything I say is an opinion based on what I read, based on what I see, and I believe certain things about our political establishments, and I'm as entitled as anyone else to say what I think. And like you just did, you do too. I just will be interested to sit back and see how it all plays out, and of course, it will get commented on by me and others. Danny, car tax money goes to MVL services companies, house registered members, voluntary liquor. Wow. When did you find that out? Get in touch with me. I'll be interested in that. I mean, that's what we're finding out. The incorporation of this country, almost all of the stuff that we deal with, councils, governments, DVLA, they're all limited companies, for Christ's sake. And we make the assumption that we have to deal with them. We're led to believe there's something which they may or may not be. Joe, that's true. They found a book in Saudi Arabia, 1,000 years old, and the climate was the same as ours. This period is special, though. God is about to show Israel who he is. I had a very interesting conversation with someone about him the other day. Richie, in Portsmouth, we only really now have one main taxi company, Aquacars. Most of the smaller firms couldn't compete with this big firm. I've seen them when I've been down your neck of the woods, Richie. I've not been to Portsmouth, actually, for quite a while. Not for quite a while. I went to Southampton this week just gone, but not Portsmouth. Paul, Reform need to win local elections to win seats in Parliament. It's the only way they'll get to challenge the Conservatives in 5 years. I totally agree with you. Totally and utterly agree with you. I went to a meeting which I was invited to with a local Reform party, and that is exactly what we were discussing in that meeting, the need for local infrastructure. Philip, every problem you're discussing would be reduced, if not completely sorted, if we did not pay private individuals to supply our money, plus charging compound interest. Why no talk about this? Oh, how many people would have to come round and start thinking like that and doing like that for them to turn around and say, hang on a minute, what's going on here? You know, millions need slowly waking up, literally millions. But, I can't argue with anything you're saying, Philip. I really can't. Ron, have you seen that sign on the motorway and the roadworks? I can't remember which motorway I was on, but it said, "We are working out of sight." You may not see us. Yeah, I have seen that. And, that makes me laugh because when you drive on a motorway, normally you don't really see anybody about. They put all the cones and the barriers out, don't they? And they disappear for ages before they come and do any work. They drag it out, don't they? Well, we got 389 watching. Let's see if we can get to 400 by the end. That'd be cool. See, you've got a few cobwebs up for Halloween. Got lanterns, but they're up most of the year, actually. My wife comes out here. I mean, with the circumstances we got at the moment with the family, we can't devote a lot of time to that sort of thing. But she comes out here and chucks a few decorations and things about. Done lots here over the years. Screwed slime, behave yourself. I know exactly what you're saying there. Behave. Cosmic Wartoad, the co-op claim to be all ethical, yet they get beers from Brewdog, who treat their staff like dirt. Yeah, so many companies do, don't they? So many companies do. Margaret Yates, Starmer reckoned there was a 46 million black hole before he was elected. Now it's gone down to 22 million. That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing. They're again relying on our short memories. And it's no good. 400 watching. Wow. Thank you very much, everybody. And please make sure that like button gets hit. Really appreciate that. Ian, governments don't run the UK. The civil service do. As without the civil service, the government would not function. I used to work there. I know. Ian, you're preaching to the choir, my friend, politely put across. But everybody believes it's the government, Starmer and Labour and everything else. They're the face of it that people blame when everything goes wrong. But you're right. It is the civil service. And then what's above that? Banned again, civil war in USA looks almost certain now. I think if Trump doesn't win, then yeah, it's not good. I mean, Duty Ron came on earlier and said hopefully Trump will come in and sort the border out, And I go on Twitter and I see an awful lot of progressive woke types banging on about Kamala and everything else. And do you really want that future? I know I wouldn't. Cosmic Walto, does anybody on here get gaggles of geese hanging around the area despite the nearest water being 15 minutes away? No. Plenty of seagulls, but no geese. No geese. Clive Buckle, we will never stop crime while we have count. Where are all the police? Where are all the police? The only policeman I've seen tonight is a retired one in the chat. My old man, retired policeman, 22 years. Now, I took a retired policeman to the airport the other day, 30 years, worked with my dad, and we were talking about all this. Where are they? Where are the beat bobbies? Where is the teeth in the law? Why aren't people prosecuted? Why is it taking so long for justice to be served? And again, problems across the pond also. It's all over the place. There seems to be a pattern. Banned again, reform of the best hope. UKIP is dead and gone. Yeah, that's what worries me. If you put your support behind something that isn't going to solve anything really quickly, it's divide and conquer. Any politician that swears allegiance is Philip to the system represents the system. So a vote for such a politician is a vote for a system, importing new, cheaper slaves to replace us. I'll put a dilemma to you. There's the old argument that if you go out and vote, you're part of that system, as you've just said. If you don't go out and vote, you're signalling that you don't want to consent to that system. You don't want to be a part of that system. What if you turned up and wrote, "I do not consent"? What if every single person out there turned up and wrote, "I do not consent"? Now, I've had people in the past criticize me for saying that. Go look up on Google. All the laws are there. People need to be made aware of their options. You know, if you stay away, I agree with you, Philip. But if you stay away, you're giving them tacit consent to do what they like. You have to come out and do something, even if it's just to say, "I do not consent." People say, "Oh, it'd be small ballots and all the rest of it," but will it? If 60 million people came out and said, "I do not consent," will it? You know, there's a way eventually, and it's going to be a slow march, but we'll get there. Matt, did you see that thing about ULEZ charges not being paid? Took their cars off them and auctioned them. Worked out about £880 a car when the owner could lose their livelihood having no car. That's disgraceful, because one of the rules within repossessions, if it's a tool of the trade, for example, a taxi driver, their car is a tool of the trade, you can't take that off of them. So something's not right there. I'm having arguments with TfL at the moment. There may be another video incoming about that. A bit like my local council the other day, the council tax. Tony Tasker, the Labour government, has just created their first job for the economy. It was an interpreter at the job centre. Apparently, an English person turned up. Oh, God. Yeah, it would be funny if it wasn't so truthful. Martin 958, the writing is on the wall. If you have a ways or means of getting out, get out. There are people doing that, aren't there? If you can, and I know some are. So Halifax Bank with a pronoun bollocks. Out local Halifax closed last month. Bye. Kirky says, "Yeah, go woke, go broke. Simple, isn't it?" And there's a lot of that. Last comment, John Clark. I'm seriously worried about the autumn budget. Labour have gone back on every promise. I think we're going to get screwed. I spoke to a member of my family yesterday, and you know, generally worried, a pensioner, and you know, can I still live in my house if they really screw us? And she went through things like the possibility of more tax on the pension, council tax, 25% council tax discount, possibility of the bus pass going, the winter fuel payment. And if you don't make preparations when you were a lot younger for your retirement, you have to keep working forevermore. That'll cure their pension problems, won't it? It's worrying times right across the ages, isn't it? Right across the ages. Right. Thank you very much, everybody, for this evening joining me. I really appreciate it. We had, I think, at a peak about 403 watching. That's great stuff. And welcome and hello to Duty Ron, who joined us from the good old US of A, somewhere around the East Coast is what I'll say. Please go ahead, subscribe to Duty Ron. He does some good stuff with his partner, Ed Wallace, both retired NYPD, and also Bill Cannon, who has an ambition to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I think he's on 76,000, something like that. And I've been following him since he's been on 20-something. So it's all good stuff. And they do great material. That's the thing with YouTube. You've got to do decent content that people are going to watch. You know, people don't want drama on YouTube. They don't want bullshit. They just want facts. And they want decent content to watch. That's it at the end of the day. That's what makes the channel. We all do it in our different way. Well, tomorrow there will be another handful of videos out. I tend to do them later in the day now because I find that works better. You get them when you come home, and those that have missed them, you get them the following morning. I just try and repeat that cycle. So that's great. If you haven't done so tonight, please hit the like button. If you're new here for the first time, please consider subscribing. It's free to do. Very much appreciated. Helps the channel. Share me on your socials. And as always, I look forward to talking to you again soon. Toodaloo.